Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to make this really beautiful pendant or brooch. I think it could make a great choker and a ribbon as well. And for this piece, I've used some of the beads from the Beading School Academy box called Desert Rose. This is their most recent Academy box. I'll link it in the description box below the video for you. I also have an unboxing that I did so you can see everything that's in the box. They're really gorgeous, gorgeous beads. But as usual, you can use beads from your stash to make this if you don't have the box. So I'll also link each bead and component individually in the description box below the video. So if you just want to buy the supplies you need to make it, you can do that as well. And of course, all materials and everything will be, amounts, everything you'll need will be in the description box below the video as well. And we'll go through that when we do the materials list. So I'm going to go ahead and get all the materials together and give you a look at what we have, and then we'll get started. Okay, let's get a materials list going. So you'll need a cabochon, an 18mm cabochon. Now this is from the Academy box, but if you don't have that, try any 18mm cabochon you have. You want it to be relatively flat. You want it to be super domed, but I would try that. I tried an 18mm Rivoli. If you don't have this, this is so stunning. I was going for this sort of tarnished copper look, when copper tarnishes, it gets green, and it's partially dull and partially shiny. So that's, I just love this cabochon for this particular piece. Some seed beads, and I'm using, these are all Miyuki. These are all, everything I'm using is in the box except this ribbon I just put out as an example, but everything else is in the Academy box. So I've got the Delicas, I've got an 11-0, and I have two 15-0s here. You could just use one. See the 15-0 is right there. And on the back, and you can just use one. I just put both out. Need a 3mm fire polish, that gorgeous Ginko bead, and that's, I think it's called Polychrome Rose, but I love that sort of tarnished copper look. And these gorgeous Preciosa sew-on rhinestones, or Monty's. I mean, I think of it as a Monty. It's got that X on the back. So look at that. Isn't that color gorgeous? Oh, just look at the sparkle on that. Talk about beautiful Preciosa, right? And then you'll need some 6mm Miyuki Slender Bugle beads. You could probably use a regular. Could you use a regular one? Probably. But I just like the look of the Slender Bugle bead. It's so elegant. I just love it. I have a 4mm Bicone here, and that's the Preciosa, the 2X. Isn't that sparkle? It's so pretty. I've got a couple of round beads here, a 2mm and a 3mm. And you can use pearls here if you don't have these. Okay, and I have 6-pound Fireline. Now the Fireline and the needle doesn't come in the box, but we're using 6-pound black satin. And I've got a little cushion here with all different size needles. I think you're going to use an 11 and a 12 here. Here I put out a little tube of beads for a stop bead here, so you got your little stop bead. Like I said, the ribbon is just a suggestion if you're a ribbon person, and this is, I think it would be gorgeous, but I'm going to do a pin. I'm going to make a pin out of this. All right, so I think that's everything. So don't forget to look in the description box under the video for all sizes, shapes, amounts, colors. I put links to all colors, everything if you want to recreate this one if you don't have the box. So don't forget to click that down. I will show more. The box will open and all that jazz. Okay, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy my videos. All right, let's get started. Okay, I've totally forgot that in the box, this is gorgeous, like antique looking pink ribbon. Isn't that beautiful? That goes perfectly with it, more so than the kind of bluish greenish ribbon I put out. But look at this gorgeous velvet ribbon with the sparkles. That'd be stunning. So yeah, that's in your box. Thread your needle with about 6 feet of thread. Put a stop bead on around the middle. We'll use both threads. So I've already gone and done the setup row here, and I just thought it might be, easier for you to look at it as completed rather than me fumbling with it. So I've dropped down to my stop bead. So here my needle will be here, right? A Ginko bead, so notice the way it's facing. So I've come through the Ginko here. I've added 4 11-0s. I've come down the other side of the Ginko and added the round bead. So druck, pearl, whichever. Came through a Ginko this way, added 4 11-0s, came down the Ginko, added the pearl. Up the Ginko, 4 11-0s, down the other side of the Ginko, added the pearl or druck, whichever. And I did that 8 times. So this is what we have so far. So now I'm going to sew, I'm going to make a circle out of this. So I'm going to sew through that first Ginko bead that I put on. Just like that. And then I'm going to advance my needle through the first 2 11-ohs that are on top of that Ginko bead. That's what it looks like. Pick up a 2mm round. I'm going to sew through these 2. So you're exiting the first 2 11-ohs. I'm going to pick up the 2mm. It's going through the next 2. Just putting that little bead right there. And then I'm going to sew down through the Ginko. And I'm leaving it on the mat because when you pick up, several Ginko beads that are strung together, it just kind of flops all over the place. So I'm going to try to leave it on the mat as long as I can. So I've come through these 2 11-ohs and I'm exiting the bottom hole of the Ginko bead. So I'm going to pick up 3 Delicas, and on my original, I used, let me fix these. I used of course I'm using the Delicas from the box, which were these gorgeous, where are they? Where are you, Delicas? Here you are. These beautiful copper metallic ones. But just for video purposes, so you can really see what I'm doing, I've just switched to a contrasting color here. So I'm going to pick up the 3 Delicas, and I'm exiting this Ginko. I'm going to sew through this Ginko. Just like that. And then these 2 11-ohs. Just like that. Then I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to pick up my 2mm, sew through these 2 11-ohs. Through the Ginko. Just like that. And then I'm going to pick up my 3 Delicas, and I'm going to sew through the next Ginko bead. Just like that. Make sure that they sit around that little round bead. And I'm going to sew through the 2 11-ohs on top of the next Ginko. I'm just going to repeat this all the way around. Okay, I'm adding my last 2mm round through the 2 11-ohs, down the Ginko, like so, adding my 3 Delicas, I'm going to sew up through this Ginko bead, just like that. So this is what we have so far. Okay, so we're exiting this Ginko bead. I'm just going to sew up through these 2 11-ohs. You can go ahead and skip the 2mm. I'm going to sew down the 2 on the other side. And then down this Ginko. So I'm just moving over to get to the Delicas I just put on. So I want to get here. So I'm exiting the Ginko. I'm going to sew through the first and second Delica of that group of 3. Just like that. Okay, next up I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a 3mm fire polish, and a 15-0. Exiting this center Delica, I'm just going to hop over to the next one and sew through the next center Delica. So just like that. Next up, I'm going to pick up a bugle bead. I'm exiting that center Delica of that group of 3. I'm going to sew through the center Delica of the next group of 3. So just like that. Again, 15-0, 3mm fire polish 15-0, through exiting this Delica, through the middle Delica of the next group of 3, like so. Then I'm going to pick up a bugle bead. I'm going to sew through the middle Delica of the next group of 3. Just like that. So I'm just going to do that alternating all the way around. Add my last bugle bead. Just sew through that original one we started with. So that Delica, that center Delica. Then I'm just going to kind of put those into place. So this is what it looks like so far. Next, I'm going to advance my needle. So I'm exiting this Delica right here. I'm going to advance my needle. Actually, I'm going to go through. Just want to complete the rounds. So I like to go a little bit past. So I'm just going to sew through a number of beads until I get to this 15-0 right here before this fire polish bead. So I'm going through the others at the moment. Just, I just want to make sure that it's the circle is complete. So you just want to be exiting the 15-0 before a fire polish bead. I'm going to pick up 5 15-0s. I'm exiting this little 15-0. I'm just going to hop over to the next 15-0 on the other side of that fire polish bead, like that, and I'm just going to make sure it kind of pops up a little bit. So just like that, I'm going to work my way through the Delica, bugle bead Delica, and then this 15-0. I'm going to pick up 5 15-0s. And if you're using the beads from the box, you don't have to use your 24 karat gold plated 15-0s here. I'm just doing this for contrast's sake. You can use a different 15-0. So I'm going to sew through the other side, the other 15-0 on the side of the fire polish, the Delica, the bugle bead, the Delica, and that next 15-0, like so. Okay, you're just going to repeat that 2 more times. Added my last 5 15-0s. I came through the 15-0 on the other side of the fire polish, through the Delica, bugle bead Delica. I'm going to sew up through the first 4 15-0s of the next group, just like that. Sitting right here, so we went up, through the first 4 beads. Pick up a bugle bead. I'm going to sew through bead number 4 of this whole group. So remember, we did put 5 on, but we had 2 on there already. So just bead number 4, and just sew through that bead, just like so. Do that again. Bugle bead, bead number 4, like that. Let me move my tail thread out of the way. So you just want to make sure you push these 15-0s over, so that when you put them on, they're going to be sort of flanking the fire polish beads. I meant to do that in the beginning, but you're going to do that all the way around. You're going to add bugle beads. So here, bugle bead through bead number 4 of the next one. Like that. And we'll do the last one, bead number, bugle bead, and then through the original bead number 4. And so when you you want to make sure you, I'll let you go off and do that. Make sure you push those 15-0s down a bit. You want them more level. So this is what it's going to look like so far. Just to show you off camera, I just pushed all the 15-0s, on top of the fire polish, the original 15-0s, and it's straightened out. So here I'm just going to advance through the next bugle bead and the next 15-0. Just want to end my circle a little bit. You can even go around this again if you like, but this is what it looks like on the back so far. What my piece looks like on the back. So I'm going to turn it over to the front now. Just hold on to that needle and thread, whatever you have left. We'll see if we can use the rest of it. So you'll be exiting a Ginko bead here. Just want you to advance your needle. So thread, take off your stop bead and thread your needle. I want you to sew through. As you're exiting a Ginko, I want you to sew through the next purl right there. So this is what the front is looking like so far. I'm going to take my cabochon and put it right there. And it should fit perfectly. It should like seat really nicely around those pearls. Okay, this is what it looks like so far. We have so far, and you notice my little 15-0s in the interior, a different color. I have various pieces in process that I work with, so it's all the same. It's just I've used the green 15-0s here. Okay, so I'm exiting the purl, taking my stone out. I'm going to pick up 2 15-0s, a Delica, and 2 15-0s. It's like so. Exiting the purl, I'm just going to sew through the next purl in line. It's going to place those beads like right on the Ginko bead right there. 2 15-0s, a Delica, and 2 15-0s. Exiting the purl, I'm going to sew through the next purl. Like that. So we're going to do that all the way around, but what I'm going to do at some point, maybe just right now, I'll put just lay the cabochon in there, and you want to make sure that these, the sequins you're putting on is up. You don't want, they tend to fall down below it, so just make sure when you're done that they're all sticking up. All right, so you're going to do that all the way around. Coming down to my last 2 15-0s, Delica 2 15-0s, exiting the purl. I'm going to sew through the next purl, like so. And then I'm going to advance my needle through the next 2 15-0s and the next Delica. So I'm going to be exiting that center Delica. This is what it should look like so far. The bugle bead, exiting a Delica. I'm just going to sew through the next Delica. Put that bugle bead on, holding the cabochon down with my finger, like that. It's sticking to my finger. And then we're going to pick up 3 of our 2mm round beads, like that. And I'm going to sew through the next Delica. Now my little Delica popped under. You want to make sure they're all upright. So through the next Delica, like that. Bugle bead through the next Delica, like so. 3 of my 2mm. Through the next Delica. Just like that. You're going to do that all the way around. The last 3 of my 2mm round beads through the next Delica. I'm going to advance through the next bugle bead, the next Delica, and the next 3 of the 2mm round beads. This is where I want your thread to be exiting. I'm going to pick up 6 of my 15-0s. I'm exiting the 3 2mm. I'm just going to hop over to the next group of 3 2mm, and I'm going to sew through all those beads, and there's plenty of room in there. You can always change your needle size if you need to. That's just going to place those right there. I'm going to pick up 6 of my 15-0s, exiting this group of 3 2mm. I'm going to sew through the next group. You got it. Make sure they pop in front, and you want to pull so everything's close together. So you can do that 2 more times. Okay, I put on my last group of 6. I'm going to sew through the 3mm, or excuse me, the 3 2mm. I'm going to advance through that first group of 6 that I put on. or just the next group of 6 that I put on, just like so. Get my needle in there. There we go. And then just right through this Delica right here. So that's where you want to be exiting. The Delica, that's right before that. It's right after this bugle bead and right before the group of 3. 2 millimeters. Hold in super tight for the next part because we're going to use these little Montes. So we're going to pick up, and I'm laughing only because, you know, I resist using anything that has a metal setting. So, you know, I'm glad I'm thinking outside the box a little bit because they're so pretty. Look at that. All right, so I'm going to pick up a Delica. I'm exiting this Delica right here. I'm going to pick up a Delica and I'm going to sew through, just right through the Monte. So you see I'm going up through the middle there. And just be careful when you go through these because they tend to kind of move a little bit now. So this is what it looks like when I look at the back of the Monte. I just want to turn it this way. So it's going to go on like so. So if you can see the little hole is right there and the thread is coming through. So I want to come out this one on the other side. So in order to do that, I'm going to pick up a 15-0, my 2 millimeter round. I get my needle through it. There you go. And a 15-0. So just like that. And I'm going to sew through. See where my thread's coming out at the top? I'm going to sew through over here, through this side. And then you see how I'm going to come out that one, the one that I want to come out? See that? Okay, so when I'm just going to pull it gently. I'm not going to pull it through. I'm going to pull my beads up a little bit and then gently pull it through, you know, because these guys are a little sharp. So that's going to place those 3 little beads up there, and I'm exiting. So I started here. I'm exiting this hole right here that I want to add a Delica and then sew through the Delica and the bugle bead and the Delica on the other side. Like this. So I'm moving my thread to the next point. And when I pull, don't pull too tight. Just be careful with these guys. See when I pull, that's how it goes on. So we'll do it again, but this is how it's going to go on at the moment. So just like that. Let's do that again. I'm exiting the Delica right here. I'm going to pick up a Delica. Then I'm going to go through my Monte. So just right through. Just make sure you're going through the holes. Like that. And then I want to pick up my 15-0, the 2 millimeter round and a 15-0. Right? And so I want to go, so I'm exiting. See where my thread is exiting right there? I want to go back through this one and then out that side so I can add another Delica. So let me make sure I'm coming through. Wait a minute, so I'm exiting here. So you want to go through this one and then there we go. This one on the other side. So, you know, we're entering here, going around, and then coming out here. So let me just get my thread through. Like I said, don't pull on your thread against the Monte. Just pull the beads up a little, hold it, and give it a little gentle pull. And then I'm going to pick up my Delica, and I'm going to sew through this Delica, the bugle bead, and the next Delica, or just, you know, whatever you can get through, but you just want to be exiting that Delica. So here, and that's going to attach it like so. And then I'm going to sew through this Delica right after the bugle bead, like so. Now you've got 2 on. So go ahead, I'll let you go ahead and put the last 2 of your crystals on. Okay, I've added my last, you know, Monte section, and then I've sewn through the Delica, bugle bead Delica, and now you're going to be right before this first Monty here, just fold it down. There's a method to my madness. Exiting this Delica, I want you to sew through these two 15-0s, just setting our thread up for later, and through this pearl. Okay, so you're exiting with the front thread, you're exiting the pearl. Just going to put that aside for now, and we're going to use that to add the bicones on later, but we have some more stuff to do before we can get to that. Okay, so this is what we have so far. It's getting crazy. I love it. So let's turn it on the back. And I think when I put my stop bead on, I didn't leave myself enough thread. I didn't do it half and half. So I'm adding a thread because you need a bit of thread here to get around. We're going to be putting some 15-0s and some, bicones. We're going to sew these little Monties down. So I just added I ended this thread, the one on the back, and I added a thread, about 3 feet. And I've just sewn through. So here I've come up through one of my Ginko beads on the back. So I'm exiting a Ginko. There's where my tail thread is. I'm going to sew through the two 11-0s. I just want to situate myself here. I'm going to just skip the pearl or the round bead, sew through that last two, and so you'll be exiting 2 of the 11-0s right here. Pick up 4 of my 15-0s, exiting this 11-0. I'm going to sew through this Delica, all 3 of those Delicas. So just start with these 2, like so, and then up this one. Just like that. I'm going to pick up 4 15-0s. I'm exiting this Delica. I'm going to sew through the 2 11-0s on the side of the Ginko. So we're just surrounding the Ginko now. See that? I'll just skip this guy, the 2mm, and come down through these 2, just like that. Let's do that again. 4 15-0s. I'm going to sew through these 3 Delicas on the back. Just like so. And then 4 15-0s. I'm just going to do this all the way around. Through these, the 2 11-0s. You can skip the round bead or go through it, whichever you like. Down the 2 on the other side. 4 15-0s. Got it. I do this all the way around. Sewing through the Delicas on the back, like that. So here I'll just turn it over just so you see what it looks like on the front. So see, you're getting that little bit of embellishment around here, and we have a bit more to go. So we'll be tacking these down. We'll be adding the bicones. All right, so just do that all the way around, and then come back and we'll continue. Okay, so I've added my last 4 15-0s. I came through the 2 11-0s. I actually came through the 2mm, and maybe it's a good idea just to go through the 2mm. That way you don't have too much thread over here. I don't know, whichever. You can either go through it or go around it. And I want you to exit the 2 11-0s on the other side of one of the round 2mm. So when I turn it over, here's where I'm exiting. So I'm exiting these 2 11-0s right here. Okay, so I'm exiting these 2 15-0s here. I'm going to pick up a 15-0, a 4mm bicone, and a 15-0. And I'm going to sew through the next 2 on the next Ginko bead. So the next two 11-0s, he's just going to place that there. And actually I'm going to just sew through the round bead and then down these two. So don't worry about that, guys. Flip them over like that. That's where I'm exiting. And now I'm going to sew through, so exiting this 11-0, the 15-0, the 2mm round, and the 15-0 that's on the crystal. And then I'm going to sew up through these two 11-0s on the other side, like so. And that's going to tack, see how that's going to tack that down so it's not going to be flopping all over the place. And then I'm going to come through here, this 2mm, back down through these two, and I'm going to repeat that process. Time 15-0, bicone 15-0, exiting these two 11-0s. I'm going to sew through these two. I'm going to sew through the 2mm, through these two 11-0s on the other side. Now I'm going to sew through the 15-0, the 2mm, and the 15-0 that's on top of that crystal, and then up the two 11-0s on the Ginko. You might have to just move your piece around a little bit to get through, like that. Gonna tack that guy down, and then we're just gonna continue doing this all the way around, adding the bicone, tacking down this guy, you know, the crystal, and then come back and we'll add some bicones on the front and we'll be done. So I've tacked everything down around the back, around the outside of the piece, and here's what it looks like. So I'm exiting one of the 2mm on the top. So at this point you can just sew in this thread because everything is tacked down and all your bicones are on. If you want to use this like to make a bail or such, you could, but I wouldn't. I would just do that separately. So just put that aside for now. So now we have one last thing to do, which is optional, and that's to put a couple of bicones. And like we don't have enough sparkle as it is, but we're going to add a bicone here and here. So we're going to start here. So remember this front thread, I had you come through the 3mm, so it's under this tack down Monty here, so you're exiting the purl that's inside. So it's this purl but under here. So we're gonna use those to add the bicones. So we're gonna pick up, I'm gonna make sure what I did here, a bicone, and we're gonna sew through. So we're exiting that purl, you know, that purl around bead under there. We're gonna sew through these two 15-0s right there. I'm going to make sure that bicone kind of pops into place. This purl, I have to kind of bend it a little bit to get it in there. So this purl right here, then these two 15-0s, like so. Bicone, and we're going to sew through that purl that's under there. So you just can you know, kind of, you can't see it on camera, but when you kind of dig your needle in there, you'll see it can only go through that 3mm right there. So it's in there. My needle is going through like so. I want to make sure that sits into place. And then we're going to pick up another bicone, and we're going to sew through, do just what we did before, these two 15-0s right here. Like that, through the purl, or the 3mm. and through these two 15-ohs right there. I'm just going to keep doing that, adding your bicones on either side, going through the 15-ohs until you get them all your bicones on. So you'll have 2 on either side of each one of the crystals. Okay, we're back and we're done. And I plan to use this as a pin. So I can't zoom out enough to show you my velvet coat, but I have this coat. I have it in blue. You've seen, if you followed my channel, you see I wear that one a lot. I have one in green also, and I just love the look of this as a brooch. Only I don't, and what I'll do is I'll put it on one of those flat filigree pieces with a pin back, and I'm going to look online and see if Beading School has those. For some reason I think they have them, and I will just glue it to the back or sew it to the back, and I'll have a pin. I'll either wear it on the lapel or just up on the side here. I just think it looks so beautiful against velvet, and I think that's going to be my sort of my holiday theme for this year. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have fun making this. Hope you give it a try. Give those, think outside the box a little bit. It's difficult to do that, but I'm really glad I did, and I think it came out really pretty. Alright, so take care, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.